All right, welcome back to Chalk Talk with Chuck and Jalen, a Week 12 recap, a Week 13 prediction. It is Friday, November 29th. We're coming in a little later than we usually do because it's Thanksgiving. Jalen, happy Thanksgiving, happy beginning of the holiday season. How are you?
I'm good, man. I wish the games were a little better yesterday, but
Yeah.
at least they were kind of close.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I think that the idea was that the Bears-Lions game might be a little bit better because people thought the Bears would be better. And it wasn't a bad game. It was kind of a perfect shit show and ended
hmm
really exciting, but I never felt like the Lions were going to ultimately lose, except for maybe for a moment there at the end. And then the Giants Cowboys game, of course, nobody thought that both of these teams, one would be on their third string, one would be on their backup. But that on paper, like even going into it, you knew it would be bad. And to wrap it up, you had the Dolphins thing. The Dolphins shouldn't be on national television where there's potential cold weather ever because it's just night and
Ever.
day.
Yeah, I
So,
was I was talking to my stepdad at dinner, and he's like, "Oh, this Packers Dolphins game should be pretty good." And I was like, "No, it won't. The Dolphins can't play in the cold." And sure enough, Green Bay just went off to they were up 2 touchdowns early, and it felt like, oh, this one's kind of not over, but it would have to take a lot for the Dolphins to come out on top for in this game.
for sure. And, the Dolphins wins this year too when you look at their schedule. I know that didn't have Tua for a good chunk of the middle section there, but the only teams they've beat are the Jaguars, the Rams, the Raiders, and the Patriots. And when the Rams are your best win on the schedule, this is not me trying to slight the Rams. It's just you're probably actually not that good of a team. They've had opportunities to beat good teams and didn't. And that is, including when Tua was healthy. Tua was in the Buffalo game. They lost that game. They took the Cardinals down to the wire, lost that game. The Cardinals, I think, are a decent team. Their schedule isn't that tough, and for them to be where they're at, I mean, they lost. I know that they were playing Tyler Huntley, but they still lost to the Titans, which is kind of unacceptable. But
Yeah, I mean, Titans are sneaky sometimes, but I agree, it's a bad loss.
and it was pretty quickly over. I don't think that, and I think the headlines will be, I mean, I'm on ESPN and it's, Stephen A. Smith has lost faith in the Dolphins and it's a picture of Tua. You know, it's such a joke because we know how much worse it was without Tua.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really look at them that much differently for losing to the Packers either. Like,
No,
I didn't think that highly of them. I mean, I think they're a good team, but they're not like on the Packers level of a team.
no. And I mean, I guess we probably, yeah. I think
Good
we've been
job,
pretty on
Stephen
the
A.
nose with the Dolphins all year, where it's like, man, if a couple of things had gone a little differently, maybe no injuries, they're probably a playoff team, but they still have the issues that have been an issue for a while now.
Yeah, I definitely think they're a playoff level team, but yeah,
Yeah,
they had a rough like first what 7 weeks, 8 weeks maybe.
right. After from like week 2 to week, I don't know, call it 10, it was just
Yeah,
bad. And that sucks, but it happens. I mean, every team's dealing with injuries and, you know, many of them to a starting quarterback. So it's hard to make excuses. They kind of remind me of what the Cardinals are without Kyler Murray. And when they have Tua, they are just the Cardinals of the AFC.
yeah, yeah. The Cardinals, we're gonna get to them, but
Yeah, we are going to get to them. And then, I mean, the other two games that were on, we talked about the Dallas game. We texted during it, and it wasn't bad for a little bit there, and then it just kind of got bad, and then it got back to okay. But we are talking about this before the broadcast, and it applies to the Tua thing. The difference between a guy who can start in the NFL and then a guy who's playing backup at even second or third string, it doesn't really matter unless you have one of these great backups, is the gap is so large. And Drew Lock is bad, and Tommy DeVito is bad, and they just let Daniel Jones walk. And I know that Brady, you told me Brady went off on him. It's so ridiculous. These bottom half guys are still so much better than the next best option.
Yeah, it's crazy because I mean the Giants were in the game against you guys. They were I mean they've been in a lot of games. I know they're 2-10 now, but they haven't really been like blown out a lot, I feel like. And the offense never looked super good, but I don't know. I just think Daniel Jones gets all the blame when I don't think it's all him.
I mean, when Daniel Jones was starting, they had 5 one-score losses. And I know technically last night was a one-score loss, but it didn't feel that way. And a lot of times in the NFL, you compound injury. Like you compound mistakes, right? Like you lose one-score game and you lose 2 one-score games, and now you can't win one-score games and you lose the rest of them. And the inverse of it is kind of you win, 1 or 2 of these early one-score games in your season, and now feel a lot different. And the vibe and the energy, and you feel like you can finish these games, and when you can't finish games, you can't win in the NFL. You have to win close games. The Giants failed to do that. There are plenty of teams who have failed to do that this year. They're not the lone dog in that, but last night was it was just tough. It was a tough watch.
Yeah, it was. It was like it was one of those games where it was like so bad that it was good.
Right. It was
Because
comedic.
like there's just mistakes everywhere on both sides. It was funny, man. But like we were, I think I told you like this is all I can ask for from two awful teams. It's like just at least a competitive game on the holidays. So
Right, on national
I'll
TV because
take
I'm
it.
gonna watch it.
Yeah.
And then the Bears Lions game was bad in the first half. It looked like a rout for the Bears, and then there's the Jahmyr Gibbs fumble on the one, and the Bears turn it around, and Caleb Williams ends up throwing for 256 yards and I think 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And the Bears have a chance late and they blow it, and now because of that, Matt Eberflus is fired, and he should have been fired 2 months ago. Probably should have been fired at the beginning before the season started. Just get a fresh look at this team. It's crazy how much better the Bears' offense has looked over the past couple weeks, but part of that could probably be attributed to teams taking their foot off the gas. So they're a really
Yeah,
hard team.
I mean, I felt like I just watched the same game as them against the Vikings. Like
Mhm.
one team's obviously in control of the game, and then they kind of let them back in because their foot's off the gas. I don't
Yep.
know. It just didn't. Both these like close games by the Bears, they just didn't feel that authentic to me. And I might be, the on the other side of that take where people seem to think the Bears are kind of turning it around, but I don't know. Like a team gets up big, they're in control. It just I don't know. It happens in sports all the time where the team that's down by a lot, kind of crawls their way back in, and then you're like, oh shit, it's a one possession game.
Right. Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
yeah, it's
another another funny note for this game is you and I were texting and we we talked about like, oh, the Bears will find a new way to lose, and they did find a new way to lose that I've never seen before in my life.
there's clock mismanagement every week. Tomlin actually has had some pretty bad mismanaged clocks this year, and and it's frustrating. And as a fan of the team that's mismanaging the clock, that wasn't clock mismanagement. That was like negligence in coaching. I don't know how you let your rookie quarterback try to take a snap without taking that timeout with 33 seconds left.
Well, the crazy part is like I saw that they seemed like they were trying to score, and like I'm okay with you like wanting to win the game, but with your rookie QB and you're like in Detroit and like there's a short list of guys that I'm like trying to win the game in that situation instead of just take it to overtime. And I had told you like why are they not just running it 3 times, taking the clock all the way down, kicking a field goal, going to overtime. Instead, they run 3 passing plays, they get penalized on one and sacked on the other, and it's a 3rd and 26, and they're all the way out of field goal range.
Yep.
And Caleb just has to snap it and basically do a Hail Mary, a bad Hail Mary.
And like I don't want to let Caleb off the hook. He's a rookie, so it's hard to blame him. That's a high pressure situation. He's never probably been in. I want to not never, but he's not in these situations often. It's the NFL. Things work differently, but he holds on to the ball and tries to make the play way too often. And when your team has just been backed up for a penalty and you're on the edge of field goal range, when you snap that ball, if your look isn't there quickly, you have to get rid of it. I mean,
Yeah, he holds the ball really, really long.
right. And he does look good, and sometimes it pays off for him. He makes these unbelievable throws, but they kind of get bailed out on a pass interference call that, like, yes, it was, but also maybe no, it wasn't pass interference.
Yeah.
And you're down there. I mean, you're down there in field goal range against who is the best team in football right now. Just know that you, as Caleb Williams, can't do anything to hurt your team. And he did. Now, it doesn't excuse Eberflus not calling the timeout. And Eberflus's comments after the game are insane. But you can't put your team in that situation either, Caleb. Like, you just got to know that the situation calls for you to be really quick with the ball, and a sack is completely inappropriate. And even if you ground the ball in that situation and there's the 10-second runoff, I guess it's kind of just as bad because you're moved far back, but then, at least your coach has the minute to think about calling the timeout, which he obviously didn't. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm so happy that the Bears are going to have a fresh face at coaching, and I hope that they make the right decisions this offseason.
yeah, me too. And I think one other thing that Caleb should probably learn is like if Patrick Mahomes is in that situation, and I know it's great, like comparisons to him are not really fair, but
Right.
there's more guys out there that would have just managed the game themselves and not been like, oh, this is all my coach, right? Like those guys, those QBs like Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow, they're not afraid to call a timeout. Like they're not
No,
waiting for their coach to call the timeout, right?
no.
Like Caleb
Right.
Caleb should be calling a timeout there himself, I feel like.
I think you're right, and I've seen those criticisms. And he needs to have the awareness, right? There's 8 seconds, now there's 4 seconds. And when he snaps the ball, there's no time left and he just throws the prayer up, and I was thinking to myself, this like actually can't be real. But it
Yeah.
was, and I mean that is like the encapsulation, I can't say the word right now, of the Bears season. Right there. That is, if you want to play a 2-minute clip, you just play that last drive where there's hope, there's hope, there's hope, and then there's insane disappointment. And that insane disappointment falls on two people, your rookie QB and your coach. And both of them together this year have let that team down on so many occasions. And the majority, like I think 70 to 80% of the blame falls on Eberflus, but that 20% that falls on Caleb is a really disappointing and feels bigger than 20%, 20%.
Yeah, and like I mean he's a rookie. I'm criticizing, but I'm okay with these mistakes as a rookie,
For
right? Like
sure.
he just needs to take accountability and learn from it. And I think he will because I mean, it seems like he's figuring things out pretty quickly. Um,
For sure. For sure.
but
But
yeah,
if you
it's
let him
I
off
mean
the hook,
right,
yeah,
yeah. You need a coach in there that's going to hold him accountable too, and Eberflus is definitely not that guy.
not that guy at all. So, yeah, I mean, overall, there have been worse Thanksgivings. I'm sure somebody will show me the numbers where it's just like blowout, 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 or 20-point game,
Oh, the
20-point
Lions
game.
get their first win too in like what, 50 years?
Yeah. No, it's crazy, right? Because they lost to Green Bay last year.
They got
And
stomped by Green Bay last year.
yeah. And Just as kind of a final point to the games, I do think Green Bay is starting to look a lot better, and Jordan Love looks like he's maybe beating some of those mistakes out of himself. Their ability to run the ball is insane. Green Bay is probably a team that you don't want to play right now, and they're building momentum. I don't think they're going to win their division, but they're probably the best wild card team, and I think they'll probably take care of whoever they play in the first round. So they're a team to watch out for sure. Um, without, I guess, with that kind of wrapping up the Thanksgiving stuff, I don't, for the first time, have an addition to the hate list, but I think you said you have one.
Yeah, I do. It's just like Al Michaels was last week. It was Jason Garrett this week. Get
Yeah,
this guy off TV, man.
how is he on TV?
I don't know. He's bad. He's you have like the opposite too of like Al Michaels. Like Al Michaels is just bored as hell the whole time calling the game, and then like Jason Garrett with his stupid smile and he's like laughing every 5 seconds for no reason.
And nothing has made more sense to me since watching Jason Garrett do all of this stuff at halftime and on TV. Since seeing him on TV, nothing has made more sense to me than the perfect person to be a coach under Jerry Jones. Like, Jerry Jones is such a weird, controlling freak, and Jason Garrett seems so willing to be controlled. So,
Yeah, yeah. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, but yeah, I'm done with him. I hope I don't have to hear him call another game, which I don't think I will. But
no, I mean, that was so bad yesterday, and he's so weird.
he is weird, dude. He gives me weird vibes.
Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the episode of South Park where Cartman describes daywalkers and gingers, but like Jason Garrett is the embodiment of the ginger children in that show, in that episode. And
Yeah, I've seen that one.
yeah, like he does look like he might, want to take your soul for the purposes of continuing to live, but not in a like negative and weird way, but not in a negative and like scary way, but in a really weird way. Yeah, I don't like him. Um, great addition to the hate list. I love it. It's really funny. We usually do basement tapes before we go into the game breakdowns. I do. It is Thanksgiving, so there's like a massive content building for the basement tapes. But I didn't want to, take up too much time. One, it is the holidays, and two, I think next week I'll have a good host of funny stories. But this is kind of an inception of the basement tape, so my parents are aware that we do this segment where I talk about living here and watching games with them. And they actually find it really funny. Particularly my mom finds it really funny. My mom loves I go around the house doing Chris Collinsworth impressions of my parents interacting like in the kitchen. I'll be like, here's a dad who's gonna clean up a dish that my mom's not ready for him to clean up. And he's gonna get mad and then he's gonna have to leave the kitchen. And that's just what a dad has to do in the holidays. You get the wife mad, but then leave. Um, which is like pretty funny. But my mom is obsessed with the fact that I do that, and she's obsessed with the stories that I tell on here, and she's been grabbing me during Thanksgiving dinner last night. She was grabbing me because we host all of our family friends and having me come do the impression, having me tell the story about what my dad says, and I think I told it like 4 or 5 times last night. I did the impression 4 or 5 times, and I told the story about my dad with the grills 7 times. So my parents are enjoying the basement tapes, and it is becoming a bit of a bit for me now, which I don't know how to feel. So for those who listen, it's real, and my parents think it's accurate enough to have me tell their friends about it. Uh, yeah, it's kind of bizarre.
I think you just run with it. Basement tapes is great.
It's great. Yeah, I've really enjoyed doing it. And I've started just like my dad. He hates the language people use during the games. Like he hates the word physicality. He hates pass rush integrity or lane integrity or they play within themselves. He hates phrases like that. And he hates like color commentators clearly hear a word that they don't fully know what it means and then they say it. Like the other day, I think I was at your house when they said, you know, he's asked them to get through all of this resilience. And it's like, well, that's not the right way to say that because resilience means getting through something. He's asked them to overcome all of this resilience. It's like that's a, an oxymoron. And I told my dad about it and it really upset him. Like it what the fuck? These people go on TV and they say stupid shit and then it becomes part of the American vocabulary and it pisses me off. So that I've started to take notes of things like that that my dad says and it's made it a lot more fun to watch games with him. So I'm
Yeah, I mean,
enjoying this.
there's almost like a it's almost like a different like a variation of English for football. Like there's like a football dictionary, and there's like words you say, like you talked about it a couple weeks ago, like prevent, but like you say prevent anywhere else. And there's more examples. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there's just some things that you say in football that
That
are
just
are
don't
not
exist anywhere else.
are not one to one to like the English language.
No.
Well, I
It's
don't think you have to hate on it.
no, my dad does though.
Yeah, but it's just football.
It is. It's just football and it's just football
It's just
guys.
it's
And
just guys being dudes.
it is. So it's funny. It's a lot of fun and I genuinely can't wait for Sunday because I know that he's just going to be so worked up. And Sunday is a big day in our house because the Steelers are playing the Bengals, which we're going to get to. And my mom's from Cincinnati, and it's always a disaster in the house when that game's on. So it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, so that's I guess the basement tapes for this week, and we'll work our way into the up and coming calendar, I guess, because we have a game today. But do you want to give us a score recap? What's going on? Who's in the lead?
Oh yeah. So you had an awful week.
Yeah.
You had 11 points last week.
Wow. Wow.
Um, yeah. So yeah, 11 for you, 15 for me last week. So we're back to a 3-point lead for me. It seems like we're flip-flopping at like every single week.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I mean the scoring has actually worked out like really well. I'm surprised, but because it's like it's still close even when one of us takes the lead on the other. But
Yeah, and it seems like a lot of the times when we're going through the games, like we're picking very similarly, but the point system allows us to have like a little bit of wiggle room for big differences, like a 4 point difference.
yeah,
And for people yesterday, did you add the picks from yesterday or
I didn't add the picks from yesterday yet,
okay, okay.
but it's
We
just because
did pick
it's
the full
included
games.
in week 13. So I'll
Yeah.
have it all by next week.
We did pick the games before they happened. We were texting. So there's that. To start us off, we have today's game, which kicks off in about an hour. Raiders Chiefs. Raiders are at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are 13.5 point favorites. The over-under is 41.5. What are your thoughts on this? We talked a little bit about it. I mean, this is a pretty bad game to have on national television on Friday.
This is really just a game I don't want to watch, but I will,
Right.
because I'll watch any football. Um, yeah, I think Pacheco's back today, so I think they're just gonna be trying to work him back in. I mean, the Chiefs love the spotlight also, which like they're the solo game today, so I'm
Right.
sure they'll look pretty good. But we were talking about it earlier before we recorded. Winning by 14 is super hard, so I'm gonna take the Chiefs and I'm gonna take the Raiders to cover. I think Desmond Ritter is playing today also.
Awesome. Sweet. Yeah, I'm the same way. We were talking about it. 13.5 is a lot, especially because Max Crosby and the Raiders and they hate the Chiefs so much. It feels like the only game that they actually look even decent in are these division games and particularly the ones against the Chiefs. It's a bad game. It's one of these games where the Chiefs could go up 10 and then the point differential stays at about 10 all game, and the Raiders maybe do something to make it look like they're scrappy for a little, but then it goes away. So,
Yeah.
weird bad game for Black Friday. The next game is the beginning of the Sunday slate, and we have what, 7 opening day, like morning games, and then 3 in the afternoon. I don't know why they can't bump one of these down. It always pisses me off, but it's Chargers Falcons. This is a good game. It's in Atlanta. The Falcons have looked so bad recently, so bad to the point where they're hosting the Chargers, but the Chargers are 1.5 point favorites. The over/under is 47.5. The Chargers are coming off of a loss that to the Ravens that people probably are going to put too much stock into. It didn't change my opinion on the Chargers. It didn't change my opinion on the Ravens. I kind of thought that that was going to be the result. The Chargers still they need targets for Herbert to throw to. The receiving room clearly is suffering, but the Falcons have looked so bad recently. For me, I'm going to take the Chargers. I'm going to take them to cover.
Oh yeah, this defense is the Falcons defense is so bad.
So bad.
I believe the Chargers are going to be without J.K. Dobbins for this game.
Yeah, I think
Um,
so. I hope Dobbins is okay. I think he will be long term, but
yeah, he'll probably. I mean, he'll probably miss a couple weeks and be fine. I mean,
yeah,
if he was playing, he was playing this year, so I mean
which is
that
an
guy's
improvement.
knees have been through a lot more than this. I'm
Bit of
going to
a
take the
viable bet.
Falcons off
Okay.
of the bye. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
screw
I
it.
mean, I
Yeah.
think Edwards is a viable enough backup to, for them to still do what they want to do. But yeah, it's pretty coin toss. It's a great game. It'll be on for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
There's a couple of actually pretty fun games in this morning slate, so I'm looking forward to it. The next game is the biggest game of the year in my house, twice a year, every year. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, the Steelers coming off of a loss to the Browns that was confounding and frustrating, but at the same time not surprising at all, given a Thursday night game after playing the Ravens. Bengals are coming off of a bye week. Feels like forever since I've seen them play. I know that their offense is good. Bengals are 2.5 point favorites at home, and the over/under is 47.5. What are your thoughts on this?
If I've learned anything from this division, it is just to pick one team and pick the other to cover because I don't like it's weird to you get a 2 point win, but it happens. I actually like the Bengals in this though.
Okay.
I think they're I don't know, man. That offense is a lot to handle,
Yeah.
and I don't know the Steelers. That's not going to surprise me if they win at all.
No,
But I think last week I have some concern with Russ,
for
especially
sure.
against a bad defense. But you know, we'll see. I'm really excited for this game. Any game in this division is always good. So
Yeah. Yeah. This is a
this is kind of the
classic.
Bengals like last chance too.
Yeah, every week I feel like we're saying last chance, but this is truthfully the last chance. If they can win this game, then there's you're looking at things a little bit differently for them because they can go down the line and stay competitive and stay in the picture. This game is really hard for me to pick because I was talking about this yesterday with somebody. It comes to the Bengals offense versus the Steelers defense, because if the Steelers defense can prevent them from scoring over 21 points, then the Steelers have a great chance to win this game. If the Bengals manage to take any multi-score lead, the Steelers are not going to be able to come back. The Steelers cannot finish drives. They get into the red zone and they stall. They get into the red zone and and they panic. I don't know what it is, what's going on with that, but they have not been able to finish drives all year. I know it looked a little bit better in the second half against the Browns, but I'm not really taking anything from that game other than, the Steelers can find ways to lose. They let teams hang around. I don't think the Bengals are a good team to let hang around with their offensive ability. But I'm gonna take the Steelers to win, which means I take them to cover. That I do just because Tomlin's now a dog and he's coming off of this awful loss, and this is like a classic Tomlin yes thing where he comes out and we beat the Bengals by 7 or 4 or 3 or 2 or whatever it is,
or
and
one.
or one or one, and I'm sweating the game out the entire time. And
Yeah,
the narrative changes back to the Steelers being Super Bowl contenders or back to the Steelers being, I mean, because it flip flops. We just sit on that edge of playoff team and team that's contending for an AFC championship. And we're just like on that bubble. And this feels like one of those games that pushes us back over the other side of the median for that. And then, next week we'll lose to, I think we play the Browns again. So,
the division leader Browns.
yeah, yeah. Beating
Crazy.
both the Ravens and the Steelers. Crazy. So, weird game. But yeah, who knows? It could go either way. And the Bengals offense is scary. They scare the hell out of me. So
Yeah.
great. Another game that you know, this is weird. It's Texans Jaguars, and I've had a hard time with the Texans all season. It's in Jacksonville. The Texans are 3.5 point favorites. The over under is 44.5. Our golden boy, our favorite man, is announced this morning probably going to play, and that Trevor Lawrence is coming back to play for the Jags. I think that that's a bizarre move if you're Jacksonville. I don't know if I'd be like rushing him back to play, but I guess Doug Peterson's fighting for his life if there's any life left, and the Texans look beatable all the time for no reason. I've thought about this game. I looked at it a lot on paper, uh, and kind of been looking at what's going on in Houston. We talked about this. They've had a bunch of injuries. They lose last week on pretty much an illegal motion play where two of their guys go into motion on a scoring play. And if not for that mistake by Mixon or by whoever, because they have been playing together, they probably win that game. And we look at Houston in this different light. I think that they're slowly starting to put it together. I think that the offensive pieces are getting there. They're going to start clicking. We're after Thanksgiving. This is when playoff teams start playing. I'm going to take the Texans to cover and beat the Jags.
Yeah, me too. So the weird thing about Trevor Lawrence is like he's like, yeah, surgery's not off the table. And I'm like, okay, well, why are you playing then?
Right.
Like
It's really weird.
it's definitely weird, but they are a much better team with him. They're still bad, but they're much better with him at quarterback.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
not upset because Thomas
this game
Robinson.
will this game will probably be so weird, man.
Oh, it's almost a must watch just because it's gonna be so weird.
Yeah, I'm rolling with the Texans though.
Yeah.
I have
I
to.
think every week the Texans are going to slowly and incrementally get a little bit better, and by mid-December this team will be clicking and look like the team that we thought they were going to look like. I know that Diggs is gone for the season. It doesn't really the Diggs thing didn't really shift how I thought about this team too much this offseason. I thought, okay, well maybe it makes them a little bit more viable, but the infrastructure for winning for them lies in Nico Collins, CJ Stroud, and Joe Mixon. When all those
Hmm.
guys have played multiple games together, it's going to look a lot different.
Yeah, and their defense getting healthy too.
100%. That'll be a fun one. Not as fun as this next one, which I'm going to let you introduce.
Yeah, we have the 9-2 fraud Vikings against the 6-5 pretty good team Cardinals, according to any media you look at.
Yep.
It's in Minnesota. 3.5 is the line for the Vikings. I feel like the Cardinals are going to win this game.
Really?
Yeah, because they always do this. Like last week, I'm like, oh, the Cardinals looked good. for the
Yeah.
past 5 weeks. Surely they'll beat the Seahawks. And then they
And
suck. They score 6 points. James Conner has 7 carries for 8 yards.
makes
And
no
then
sense.
then you're like off the Cardinals. And then you're like, oh well they're playing the Vikings at home. Like probably not gonna win this game, and then they come out and look awesome. That being, I'm still not gonna pick them now. I can't do that. I'm a fan first.
So you're gonna take the Vikings?
Yeah, I'm taking the Vikings,
You gonna take the
and
Cards to cover at least, or
no, I'm gonna take the Vikings to cover.
okay? Yeah, but the Cardinals, for all the reason you said, seem like they could come into Minnesota and upset, quote unquote. I don't know if it's much of an upset as much as it would be like, oh well, that's the Cardinals this year. Admittedly, like I've watched a decent amount of the Cardinals, but not in the detail that I've watched the Vikings. So I have more on the Vikings. I don't know the Cardinals' weaknesses that great. I did watch the game last week, and it just felt like they're either clicking or they're not clicking. They're on or they're not on. And one thing that your defense can do is make it so that another team's offense isn't clicking. They're not moving the ball well. They're not, you know, unless they're up 2 to 3 scores, and then teams can build momentum. And there's been a couple of times this year where I think people, they say the Vikings are frauds because other teams are playing closer games towards the end. But the beginning of those games, it's just when they're doing what their game plan was defensively instead of just kind of running prevent, making sure disaster doesn't occur. They they're completely dominant, and I think that the Vikings are probably going to win this game. I'm going to take the Vikings, but I am going to take the Cardinals to cover. I think that this will be a 3 point game. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Vikings go up, the Cardinals to come back in it, maybe even tie it, and then you guys go down and kick a game winning field goal, something in that vein, just because it's
Yeah, that feels
so
right.
it's so the Vikings this year to go big and then let other teams back in, and I think that's where the fraud notions come from, as kind of illegitimate as they are. So
Yeah, one thing that I do think will be a big factor in this game is we're very good at stopping the run.
for sure, yeah,
And if the Cardinals can't run the ball, they look like a lot different of a team. So,
yeah.
but we'll see. We'll see. I'm
We'll
I'm
see.
excited. It's a good game.
It's a great game. It's an awesome game to have on in this morning slate. Feels like
Yeah.
the game that they should have pushed to the afternoon, but I'm not going to say anything. The next game is a poo poo game. I don't. I'm not looking forward to this at all. If you have some reason why you are, I'm open to hearing why it should change my mind. But it's
Young quarterbacks. It's not
yeah, I
horrible.
guess Colts Pats. The spread is 2.5 for the Colts in New England. Over unders 42.5. The Colts are kind of like all of these teams that sit in the middle of the maybe playoff push for the final wild card spot in the AFC, where some weeks they're good, some weeks they're bad. The Anthony Richardson thing is weird. On the other hand, New England is a team that hangs around in games all the time, and if they beat you, don't be too surprised because Drake May is actually kind of exciting, but clearly the infrastructure around him, at least from a receiving standpoint, is not there. Hard game to pick. I I think I'm going to end up going Colts just because this game is everything for them. Every game for them from now on is so big. If they actually think that they're going to make the playoffs, I don't know if it's even really all that possible. But you know, it's certainly not for the Patriots. So for that reason, I guess I'll take the Colts, who are what they have 5 wins on the season. I guess somehow if they win out on these last five, they have 10 wins and they're still in it.
Yeah, I'm just going Colts to win, Pats to cover. I don't really know what's gonna happen in this game at all. So
Yeah,
just
it's
guarantee a point out of it.
fair. It's a good safe bet. I love how neither of us are willing to touch an over under because it's just been such a disaster for us all
Dude,
year.
that is the hardest thing to guess. I swear.
It's so hard. It's so hard, even like for a team like the Lions, where it feels like it should be easy because they always manage to put up points. They
And
sometimes
they
let me down.
they put up 23 points. It's just, yeah, it's weird, man. But
It's
yeah, this game's not going to be on my TV.
Nah, probably not. No, it's a bad game. The
However, this next
however,
one,
this next one even more exciting.
I
Uh,
can't quit the Jets, Charlie. I gotta watch them.
yeah, it's Seahawks at Jets. The Seahawks are 1.5 point favorites. The over under is 42.5.
How?
God, I can't stand watching the Jets, but at the same time, it's like a beautiful, disaster. It's like watching a car crash. You just cannot take your eyes off of what's going to happen next. It's just so crazy. And the Seahawks are oddly like they win games, they lose games, they're up, they're down. If they lose to the Jets, I'm not surprised. If they kill the Jets, I'm not surprised at all. They're 1.5 point favorites. I can't believe they're only 1.5 point favorites. It
Me
feels like
neither.
it should be 4 or 5.5 point favorites. And I mean, I guess that kind of gives away where I'm leaning here. I'm totally leaning the Seahawks.
Oh, the
But
Jets could run the table. So
yeah, yeah, the Jets are always in position to run the table. Don't forget that they have Hall of Fame quarterback Aaron Rodgers, who has completely destroyed this franchise, and then
no, no,
loves.
no. That's everyone else. He Charlie, we go over this every week, man. He's not the GM. He's not the owner. He's just the quarterback. He
He's
doesn't make
just the
decisions.
quarterback, dude. He's
Yeah.
just. You're
And
right.
every report you've heard about him is not even true. He said
No,
that.
which is great because and he has just such a great reputation for honesty and being an upstanding guy and being a locker room guy. I mean, people just love him. Uh, if you talk to them about him, it's just so ridiculous, man.
Yeah, I mean, fun fact, he's a great actor too.
A fun fact: Game of Thrones. Jalen has started running in Game of Thrones. Who is Aaron Rodgers?
Uh, um, damn, that's a good question. So it needs to be a guy who ruins everything but takes no accountability.
It's a trick question. He's Aaron Rodgers because he's in the show.
Right, right. But I mean, that's probably what he wants. He wants you to think he has no role in it, right?
Right, right. But if you
But he
ask him,
really
he actually
does.
it wasn't him in there. It was his brother. No, but if he was, I think he's Ramsey Bolton, dude.
He's Ramsey Bolton and oh, what's his name? Salo was Reek.
Saul was Reek, and and Devontae Adams is probably Rickard Stark.
Like when Salo went to hug him and he was like, "No, get off me." He probably like after the game he was like, "Come here. Come here,
Come here,
Robert."
Reek. Yeah, if he could have, he probably would have taken Saul's balls so he can't have a 12th child.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, he's
Oh,
just so, you know, just the worst, and I love it.
yeah, and I have to watch this team because I have Garrett Wilson in fantasy.
Oh, I took Brees Hall in not 4 out of my 5 leagues, all 5
Not
leagues.
Saquon.
Not
Crazy.
Saquon.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I think I
Keish.
took Amon Ra instead of Saquon. So
Hell yeah, dude. Nice.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah, great pick. I kind of
Uh,
hope Tyrod Taylor plays like next week, but
well,
see.
I mean, Rodgers does have to go to Egypt sometime soon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's got to do
yeah.
Christmas with his family, man, who doesn't
Yeah,
talk to him.
just give me the Seahawks. Although the Jets they'll probably win this game
Yeah,
somehow.
almost certainly. So annoying.
Are you going Seahawks too?
Next game, Titans at the Commanders. The Commanders have maybe been exposed for being frauds. The Titans look like maybe Will Levis is okay. I don't know. I mean, it's I don't know. Levis is kind of fun to watch in a lot of ways, but at the same time, he had only one like outstanding game, which was the game against the Texans. He hasn't looked that bad though. He's looked viable, which is kind of the worst case scenario for the Titans, where it's like, oh man, now do we have to consider this? On the other hand, like the Commanders have lost a couple of games here that maybe it feels like they should have won, or they, if they were actually real contenders, they would have won at least a few of them. They've lost three straight. The Cowboys' loss is sort of inexcusable in what was one of the weirdest games I've ever tracked on a phone because I didn't think it would be good until it was good, and then, it was over. Uh, I don't know how you have an 80-yard pass to Terry McLaurin and then miss the point after attempt to tie the game and then also then give up a kick return for a touchdown. Like, I don't know. All of those things were very, very weird. I know it was an onside kick that got returned, but then also still had a chance for a Hail Mary at the end. Really weird game. Uh, they lost to the Eagles, a game that they probably should have lost. They lost to the Steelers, a game that, was their maybe first down away from winning. I think that they bounce back here. I think the Commanders are going to win, but I'll actually take the Titans to cover.
Yeah, this is I don't know how this line is bigger than the line that we had against the Titans.
Right.
I think it was 5.5 for the Vikings. It's 6.5 for the Commanders. And this is right now. It probably opened higher than this, which is crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I'll take Will Levis to cover. He's got a little Jameis in him.
He does. He does.
Um, but yeah, I feel like the Commanders have to win this game,
They have to. They have to win this
or
game.
it's gonna get ugly if they don't.
It'll get really weird. Like, I don't know what the narrative shifts to for them because the team that we watched at the beginning of the year looked like world beaters. Now they look real lost. It's a get right game. I actually have faith in Dan Quinn to get right here.
Yeah, double fisting on the sideline.
Double fisting on the sideline always. Next game, really, uh, what would have been a poop game 4 weeks ago is now actually something that I'm looking forward to watching.
Yeah,
Bucks Panthers. The Bucks are 5.5 point favorites in Carolina. The over under is 46.5. Panthers looked pretty damn good against the Chiefs last week. I know that the Chiefs probably just didn't take that game seriously, and you knew that they were probably always going to kind of pull it out. But man, they managed to score, and they managed to look like a team that had the potential to sort of beat better teams. On the other hand, the Buccaneers have looked awesome the past couple of weeks. Well, I guess actually not past couple of weeks. They looked awesome against the Giants, with Mike Evans being back. Before that, they had four losses, but they're not out of the picture at all. They play the Panthers, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Panthers, and the Saints to close the season. They could win the division. I've been kind of on the Bucks all year as a viable option to win their division, and this game really butts up against that. It's a division game. It's on the road. I think 5.5 is too much, but I'll take the Buccaneers to win and the Panthers to cover.
nice. I'm gonna take the Bucks to win and the Bucks to cover.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the like Bryce Young situation?
I mean, I'm happy to see him like move the ball down the field finally.
Yeah.
I always have like felt pretty bad for him through this whole thing. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. They're an all right team. I don't want to get too high on them, and I think the Bucks are just way better.
Yeah, and they
That
they
that's all.
they're kind of putting part of that roster back together that is so banged up all year, but now kind of seems like some of these guys are starting to come back for them maybe, and
Well, the
they
Bucks learned how to run the ball really well with Evans and Godwin out.
yeah. Yeah, and now that they have Evans back, they can still run the ball, which is nice. It's
Yeah.
great for Baker, and I grown to love Baker. So
Baker's awesome. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I expect them to start heating up because they gotta win their division to get in. So
they do.
I think they're gonna take care of business.
Next game, Rams Saints. It's in New Orleans. The Rams are 2.5 point favorites. Feels low to me for some reason. Am I missing something on the Saints that I didn't know about?
Rizzy,
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess they started throwing the ball to MVS, which is, a revelation. But I like the Rams here to cover and win in New Orleans. So at some point, the Saints. I know I declared the Saints dead and they were going to lose to the Browns, and maybe I was just a little bit early on that. There's 2 weeks of tape out on this new Saints offense with quotations put around it. Uh, Sean McVay should be able to handle this.
I'm gonna take the Rams to win, but I'm gonna take the Saints to cover because I think they're gonna run the shit out of the ball on this team, and they are
Mm.
using Taysom Hill. And Rizzy
Yeah.
had a whole press conference about how this is how we're gonna use this team now, and like Taysom is like a focal point of their offense now.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty good, dude.
Jason?
Yeah, like I mean, I hate saying it because he's like a BYU guy, but he's pretty good, and
I mean,
I
yeah,
I like what they have with him and Kamara. I think they're going to be very run heavy in this game, and then
yeah.
MVS will probably have uh, two catches for two touchdowns for like 105 yards, probably.
The Taysom Hill thing is unbelievable.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
the guy had 7 carries for like 140 yards last week. Or sorry, 2 weeks ago.
and 2 touchdowns or something like that. I mean, he's or 3 touchdowns. He's awesome, and he's 34 years old, which makes this almost even more impressive. You feel like he could play any position on the field.
He can, dude. He's got good hands. He can throw a
He
pretty
can
good ball. He's good
throw,
running. I mean, he's a massive guy.
and he's a decent route runner at tight end.
Yeah,
Um,
he probably played defense too. Like, guy's
Gosh, he
just a
probably be a
crazy,
really
crazy
decent
athlete.
safety. Yeah,
Yeah,
I, it is fun, and if they're using him, it makes him 10 times more watchable.
for sure. And it's I don't know. I'm not like super high on the Saints, but it seems like a new coach is really like guys seem to be playing harder for this guy
Yeah,
than for Rizzy, for the
yeah.
Rizzler, than
And
Dennis
for the
Allen.
clogger,
But yeah, I'll probably turn this game on for a little bit. It's
for sure.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's one of the 3 afternoon games, so it'll probably be watched by default.
Yeah,
Uh, the last 2 games, but primarily this one, are the games that I'm most excited for outside of the Steelers Bengals.
this is the game of the day, I think.
This is the game of the day. It's the game of the week. It's really I'm excited to see what these 2 teams have to offer. It's Ravens, Eagles in Baltimore, and the Eagles have been lights out these past, I don't know, 6, 7 weeks. Seven
Yeah,
weeks in a row, they found a way to win. Now in those 7 wins, the toughest 2 teams they played were the Bengals and the Commanders, and I guess you could maybe say the Rams, but the Rams are, I don't know. Uh, I guess out of those wins, Rams, Commanders, and Bengals, I think, are 3 teams that we both think are pretty good, and so they're beating teams and kind of beating them handedly. I The Saquon thing is unbelievable. He maybe is the MVP. I don't. The Lamar numbers are pretty crazy, so this is like another game that might actually determine part of the MVP race. The Ravens defense isn't very good, but the Ravens are 3 point favorites at home. And the over under is 50 and a half. What are your thoughts?
I got the Ravens.
Okay.
but I have the Eagles to cover.
Okay.
I think this is definitely going to decide offensive player of the year because it's kind of a two-man race with Henry and Saquon.
Great.
I feel like, yeah, dude, this Saquon thing is it, it's really something. Like we talked about it probably what 7 weeks ago when I was
Mhm.
sucking off the Eagles that one week, but
Yeah.
it's just like you give the ball to Saquon, he's good, he might get 2 on this one, he might get 4 on this one, but there's gonna be a run in there where he gets like 20 plus,
Yeah.
and then it just opens everything up for them. And I think Jalen Hurts has also been like very, very good this year.
Well, it hurts. I think the key for Hurts is to have another guy in the offense that is a stable guy who's able to produce and gives him comfort, and that is exactly what Barkley provides for this team, is
Hmm.
a stable presence that is reliable, that can take a load of the run off of him, and Hurts's run threat is still there, but you don't have to lean on it at all. I think they leaned on that way too much last year, and that's why they fell apart. Now they don't, and now the one thing that the Eagles can do that I think makes them a big threat to the Ravens is they can finish drives. They can score and they can do it in multiple ways. They have the receiving threats. They have the running back, and we're
They have the defense too.
they have the defense. They have the ability to bring the pressure. Lamar might be the most unsackable guy I've ever watched in my career, like in my career as a watcher of football. I can't believe I just called it a career. The most unsackable guy I've ever seen. The way that he gets out of things that should be sacks is
Yeah,
unbelievable to me. But the Eagles still have really good DBs and really good linebacker and really good defensive play. I think linebacker is like pretty good for them, not great.
their
But
D line is
Jalen
ridiculous.
Carter is ridiculous. Ridiculous. And broadcasters are always like, this guy doesn't get enough credit. I'm giving him the credit now. This guy's going to be a problem for the Ravens. And I think the Eagles are going to win. I need the
Okay.
Eagles to win.
Yeah.
Be honest. I'm
Yeah,
going to be
you
cheering
do.
for the Eagles really hard on Sunday. And I think this game is going to go over 55 and a half.
I uh I just hope this game is everything that I want it to be. I'm okay
Same.
with either team winning because I really enjoy watching both of these teams, but I hope it's a lot of Henry and a lot of Saquon
Yep.
and a lot of Lamar too.
Yeah, and I hope that there's a good sprinkle of some great plays from Hurts in the passing game as well. And I
Yeah,
think
so you're
yeah.
so you think Lamar's going getting his second loss against the NFC in his
Yeah, I
career.
know. I mean, that's his only losses to Daniel Jones. Congrats, by the way, for picking him up.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just the Ravens should have lost to the Steelers by 21 points. The way that the Steelers were able to move the ball into the end zone and stop Lamar from doing stuff. And I know Lamar against the Steelers, the numbers are crazy. It's like something like the last four teams to hold the Ravens under 20 points is all the Steelers, and it's been
Yeah.
four consecutive games. But the Eagles play a brand of football where they can score with the Ravens, and I think that their defense is just better than Baltimore's. And that's what it's
Yeah.
probably going to come down to. But at the same time, the Ravens look like world beaters against the NFC, and I kind of forgot about that. But I'm going to stick to my guns, and this game's going over, is my prediction.
Yeah, I mean that's a fun stat, but it doesn't have I don't think it holds that much weight in a matchup like this, right? Like
Right.
teams are completely different that he's playing. It's just a fun thing to be like, oh yeah, Lamar doesn't lose against the NFC.
It is
But
crazy
yeah,
how much
this
different the
game's
Ravens.
awesome. I'm so
It's
excited
crazy
for
how
this
much
game.
different the Ravens look against any other team than the Steelers. It's insane.
No, it is insane.
It's really weird.
Like even the Chiefs, they look like with their week one against the Chiefs, they look way better than against you guys.
They look so good against the Chargers. They really
Yeah.
look so good. So
Yeah, dude, they're gonna have those black jerseys out for this game. It's gonna
Yeah,
be night in Baltimore. I don't know, man.
I can't
It's
wait. I'm
tough
gonna
to
watch.
pick against though.
I'm gonna watch as much as that game as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Uh, Final game of the day on Sunday is Bills Niners. I don't know who's going to be playing quarterback for the Niners. I don't know if they've said if Purdy's going to be back yet. The
Let's check.
Niners are in the year from hell. They win, then they lose two, then they win, then they lose, then they win, then they lose, then they win, and then they lose two, and now they're playing the Bills, and it's in Buffalo on Sunday night. The Bills have looked really good the past couple of weeks. They keep winning games. They keep finding ways to win games. I think much like the Eagles, they've won six straight. They beat the Chiefs last week. I know that we kind of especially you kind of kicked a fuss about how big of a deal they made out of that. But the spread on this is 6.5 points for Buffalo against a hungry Niners team. But if Purdy doesn't play, I like the Bills and the Bills to cover. If Purdy plays, I think the Niners will cover the six.
Yeah, I don't care who plays quarterback for them. This game's gonna be I think it's supposed to be like snowing a shit ton on the
Oh, that's
forecast right
awesome.
now. So it's snowballs from the fans. It's gonna be all Bills.
Yeah, and it feels like one of these. One thing that we have to stop doing is when team beat the Niners being impressed because if the Bills handle business here, they're supposed to. This isn't the Niners team that we're used to, even
No,
with
I'm
Purdy.
done with the Niners. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done. And it's
Um,
okay. If you're a Niners fan,
fun
don't
fact.
freak.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you're a Niners fan, don't freak out about this season. This happens. You went to the NFC Championship game of the Super Bowl for the last 5 years. That's hard
Mhm.
to do, and it's hard to stay healthy this frequently. Even the Chiefs are suffering with injuries. They just have Patrick Mahomes. Don't freak out. It happens. It's a bad season. Chalk it up. Go get a draft pick.
Yeah, fun fact, Fred Warner's been playing with a fractured ankle since week 4.
Don't play.
Oh, you didn't see it on the injury report? That's weird. Team's usually really good about being
About
transparent with injuries.
about disclosing horrible injuries that will almost certainly impact the outcome of the game.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal though. People fracture ankles all the time and play
Right. And then
through it.
play on them at middle linebacker guarding, slot receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's not even an injury listed next to his name, too. Like he's not even questionable. He's just gonna go. It's just the Niners are infuriating for that reason. But yeah,
Yeah,
don't
they
don't
are, and I'm so happy I don't have to think about Debo Samuel.
great trade for you for mental
Oh
stability.
my
Now you just
gosh.
have to think about Garrett Wilson.
Now I just have to think about Aaron Rodgers.
You
Garrett
can't win.
Wilson's a baller.
He is a baller, and I feel horrible for him. How bad can
Yeah.
anything ever get? Final game of the week, Monday Night Football, man. Actually, not a bad game.
No, not bad at
Actually,
all.
kind of fun. I think if people were looking at this, they're like, "Oh, why do I have to watch this?" But actually, kind of fun. You get the Broncos hosting the Browns. It's a 5.5 point spread for the Broncos. The Browns are so interesting. I know that they just beat the Steelers on Thursday night. You got the Jameis and the Snow thing. The Browns are fun to cheer for with Jameis at quarterback. They're a much better watch. They use their receivers better with him. It's clear that the offense is at least something when he's playing. They clearly have not gotten the run game to where they want it to be. Jerome Ford is their rushing leader. He doesn't even have 300 yards. I know that Chubb came back a couple of weeks ago, but he hasn't looked even close to what we would expect from Nick Chubb. On the other side of it, you've got the Bo Nix thing, the Bo Levers. He's been the best rookie quarterback in the NFL for the past couple of weeks and debate, arguably all season. He's put together a string of some really good games for them, and I think that the Broncos are a likely playoff team. I
Yeah.
don't really know what to do here, but I think the Broncos are going to win, and I'll take the Browns to cover.
I got Broncos, and I'm taking the Broncos to cover.
Okay.
I mean, the Browns fall off after big wins.
Yeah, part of this is like I'm not having an easy time getting rid of the Steelers' loss to the Broncos or to the Browns. Like, I'm just not.
Yeah,
But
I
the
mean,
the
it's
Broncos
weird.
do take care of bad teams.
Yeah.
It's a point that, you know, should be
Very good
highlighted.
defense too. I know your
Yeah,
defense is
defense.
great, but this
Yeah,
is
but
also a
division
great
games.
defense. Yeah, that truly, you just throw everything out the window for division games.
It's really weird. And, I mean, the worst loss that the Broncos have on the season is to the Ravens, and it's the 41-10 loss. It's like I don't even know what to evaluate that game at and for. It's really, really crazy that they managed to lose by 31 points with this team and this defense. They beat teams they're supposed to beat, and they lose to teams they're supposed to lose to. That's who the Broncos are. They're they're the exact team you thought they were. And for that reason, I probably should take them to cover. I don't know. I just can't get the Browns thing out of my brain right now. But when you look at their schedule, they beat the Falcons, probably should beat the Falcons, beat the Raiders, should beat the Raiders, beat the Panthers, the Saints, the Raiders again, the Jets, the Bucks. And then the games they lost are teams they should lose to: the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Chargers. They lost the Seahawks week one, but week one is almost a nothing for me.
How about week 2? Isn't that when you guys beat them?
Yeah, we beat them 13-6, and
Oh,
that's
Nick's
like a
second start.
deal. Yeah, Bo Nix's second start, and the the Steelers defense just feasts on rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah,
Um,
they do.
that's one of the weirdest things. But yeah, I mean, the Steelers won that game, and their lead receiver was Pat Fryermuth with 39 yards. That was a weird game.
Pittsburgh
Uh,
football.
that's Pittsburgh football, 13-6. It's almost unwatchable. Yeah, good fun Monday night game. I'm actually looking forward to this week. I think there are a bunch of games that are fun, and this is the beginning of the good teams being good and the bad teams being bad, and the separation starting to come to light, like in a big way.
Yep. Yeah, we're close to playoffs. I'm excited to see who sneaks in.
Yeah, I'm sad and excited. The beginning of the year is always fun because you get all the excitement from what could be. Middle of the year is always kind of this like slog where teams are pushing themselves into corners of what they will be, but also fighting against those narratives. And then you get to weeks like this week where you have the teams, if they're good, they're going to separate. If they're not good, they're going to, kind of continue to be in that fight. And there's a bunch of teams with defining games. I mean, you have the Steelers with a defining game against the Bengals. You have the Texans with a defining game against the Jags. I think the Vikings Cardinal game is a defining game for both teams. Whoever wins that game is going to be looking at their season much differently and looking at the possibilities much differently, especially you guys sticking one game behind the Lions. A lot of ways it's a defining game for the Commanders if they can go out and handle. They're in great shape. The Buccaneers, if they win, they look like they probably could win the division. Eagles Ravens is self-defining. And, I guess the Broncos Browns is a little bit defining, but I think those are the big headline defining games. And if you go down that line, the teams that end up winning these games are going to be teams that we talk about very differently. Even the Chargers Falcons. If the Falcons manage to beat the Chargers, then well, the narrative changes to them winning the division. So it's all over the map. This is
Yeah.
always one of those big weeks in the season where you're turning into December, where football turns real, and this is the excitement. This is why you watch football. This is why you follow the games all season, is to hit this final fourth of the year or third of the year, however you want to break it down, and go, wow, this is. You look back at weeks like week 13 and go, wow, that's where the season turned around for this team, or that's where the season took a really wrong turn. I'm super excited.
Yeah, these last this post Thanksgiving football is, I mean, you see a lot of teams start separating themselves. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be
Well,
fun, man. This is a good week.
this is why we do it, Jalen. This is
Yep.
this is why we do it. So as always, man, good job and thank you. I've been loving doing this. I love that even in a week where it's been a little bit chaotic, we managed to come together
Yep.
and pump the pod out. So good job by you, and have a great rest of your day and Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to basement tapes next week.
Yeah, me too. So, all right, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Peace.